The great crystal dome of Nexus Prime glowed with soft blue light. Inside the massive chamber, hundreds of alien beings floated, crawled, and walked to their seats. The emergency council meeting had been called after 3 months of terrible news from the outer worlds. High Chancellor Vexitara stood at the center of the chamber. Her crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. She was beautiful like all her people, but today fear clouded her usually bright features. Around her, the representatives of 50 different worlds waited in silence. "Friends," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "We face the darkest time in our history. The Kethmore horde continues to destroy everything in their path." A wave of worried sounds filled the chamber. Some beings clicked their claws nervously. Others hummed low notes of distress. The ethereal. Delegates from the gas giant worlds flickered between visible and invisible as their emotions ran wild. Counselor Zephian, a tall being with 6 arms and skin like polished metal, rose from his seat. "Chancellor, we have lost contact with 12 more colonies since our last meeting. The outer rim is falling faster than we feared." "What of our fleet?" asked Ambassador Krilten from the ocean world of Aquatica. Her blue-green skin rippled with patterns that showed deep concern. "Surely our ships can stop these monsters." Vexitara's light dimmed. "Our fleet has tried 3 times to engage the Kethmore. Each time we barely escaped with half our ships intact. They are not like us. They do not seek to talk or trade or live in peace. They only destroy." The chamber fell silent. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had kept peace through talk and trade. Their ships were built for exploration and carrying goods between worlds. Their weapons were designed to disable, not destroy. War was something from the dark past that civilized beings had left behind. "There must be something we can do," said General Mordix of the warrior caste of Zentauri. Even he, one of the few, military leaders in the council, sounded defeated. "My people are fighters, but we have never faced anything like the Kethmore bioships. They heal faster than we can damage them. They adapt to our weapons within hours. The bioships were the stuff of nightmares. Living vessels that grew rather than being built. They could repair battle damage by eating the metal from destroyed enemy ships. Worse, they seemed to learn from each fight, becoming stronger and more deadly." A new voice spoke from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. "There is one option we have not discussed." All eyes turned to see Speaker Yulmoth of the Archive Worlds. His people were the record keepers of the galaxy, storing information from 1,000,000 different species. If anyone knew of a solution, it would be him. "Speak," commanded the Chancellor. Yulmoth moved forward into the light. His gray skin looked ancient, covered in natural markings that showed his great age. "There is a world in the outer spiral. Arm, a planet called Earth by its inhabitants. They call their star soul." "I have never heard of this place," said Zephian. "Few have. It is listed in our files as a death world. Class 12, hostile environment. The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere is toxic to most species. Massive storms rage across the surface. The entire planet is covered in dangerous predator species. Most shocking of all, the dominant species actually evolved there." The chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Everyone knew that intelligent life could only develop on peaceful garden worlds like their own homes. The idea of a species evolving on a hostile planet was almost impossible to believe. "You cannot be serious," said Ambassador Krilten. "No species could survive such a world, let alone become intelligent." "The records are clear," Yulmoth replied. "They call themselves humans. Our first contact team barely survived their visit 50 years ago. The humans seemed friendly enough, but everything about their world tried to kill our people. The plants were poisonous, the animals were aggressive, even the weather was deadly." "What does this have to do with our current crisis?" asked General. Mordix Yulmoth touched a control on his wrist device. A holographic image appeared above the chamber showing a blue and green planet covered in swirling white clouds. If a species can evolve on a world like this, what kind of beings would they become? The image zoomed in to show scenes from Earth's surface. Vast oceans with waves larger than most spaceships, Mountains that reached into the thin atmosphere, deserts where the heat could melt metal, ice caps where the cold would freeze most aliens solid in seconds. They would be monsters, whispered Vexitara. Or, said Yulmoth quietly, they would be the ultimate survivors. Think about it. Every day of their existence has been a battle against their own world. They have fought predators, diseases, natural disasters, and each other for millions of years. They have never known the luxury of peace that we take for granted. The chamber was silent as this idea sank in. These humans had lived their entire evolutionary history in conditions that would kill any civilized being in minutes. You are suggesting we contact these Deathworlders? Asked Zephian. Ask them to help us fight the Kethmore? I am suggesting we have no other choice, Yulmoth replied. Our peaceful ways have failed us. Our gentle fleet cannot stop the horde. We need allies who understand violence because they were born into it. But what if they are worse than the Kethmore? Asked Ambassador Krilton. What if we invite these humans here and they decide to conquer us instead of help us? Then we will face the same fate we face now, said the Chancellor, her light growing, brighter with determination. But at least we will have tried something different. We cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results, a vote was called. The debate lasted for hours. Many council members feared that contacting the Deathworlders would only bring more danger to their already threatened civilization. Others argued that desperate times called for desperate measures. In the end, fear of extinction won over fear of the unknown. The vote was close, but it passed. Very well, announced Chancellor Vextara. We will send a message to the Death World, called Earth. We will ask these humans to help us in our darkest hour. May the stars forgive us if we are making a terrible mistake. The great transmitter array on Nexus Prime hummed to life for the first time in decades. The message was simple and desperate. It carried coordinates to human space and a plea for help from a dying galaxy. Across the vast emptiness between stars, the signal began its long journey to a small blue planet, where the dominant species had learned that survival was not guaranteed. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you asked Deathworlders for help. The deep space monitoring station outside Seoul hummed with constant activity. Lieutenant Commander Park Hyun sat at his console, watching the endless stream of data from humanity's listening posts scattered throughout the solar system. It was a quiet night shift, the kind where nothing usually happened except routine maintenance checks and asteroid tracking. Then the signal came. At first, Park Hyun thought it was equipment failure. The incoming transmission was unlike anything in Earth's databases. The frequency patterns were completely alien, pulsing with mathematical sequences that hurt his head to look at. But as the computer systems began their analysis, one thing became clear. This was not natural. This was a message. Captain Kim Dae to the communications center, Park Hyun spoke into his headset. We have something you need to see. Captain Kim Dae arrived within minutes, still pulling on his uniform jacket. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but those who knew him understood that his gentle appearance hid a sharp mind that had solved humanity's greatest puzzles in xenobiology and communications theory. What do we have, Park? Kim Dae asked, settling into the chair beside the lieutenant commander. Unknown signal from outside the solar system. The computer says it's artificial, definitely intelligent origin, but the language patterns are nothing like anything we've encountered before. Kim Dae studied the scrolling data on the screens around them. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, running the signal through every translation program Earth had developed. The mathematical base appears to be standard universal concepts. Prime numbers, basic physics constants. Someone is trying very hard to make sure we can understand this. Can you decode it? Give me a few hours, Kim Dae replied, already lost in the work. 3 hours later, Dr. Song Hai joined them in the communications center. She was Earth's leading expert in theoretical alien technology, a brilliant woman who had spent years preparing for this exact moment. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her clothes showed she had been pulled from sleep by the emergency call. You found something, she said, looking at the expressions on their faces. We found everything, Park Hyun replied quietly. Kim, show her, Kim Day activated the main display screen. Text appeared in clear English, translated from the alien. Signal. As Dr. Song Hai read, her face went pale. The message told of a galactic civilization under attack, peaceful worlds being consumed by something called the Kethmore Horde. Billions of innocent beings dying while their defenders fell back in defeat after defeat. Traditional military forces failing against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. "They're asking for help," Song Hai said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're asking Deathworlders for help," Kim Day corrected. "They specifically mention that they need allies from harsh worlds, beings who understand violence and survival." "They mean us," Park Hyun realized. Earth is the death world they're talking about. The three humans sat in silence for a moment, trying to process what they had discovered. Humanity was not alone in the universe. There was an entire galaxy full of intelligent life, and that galaxy was dying. "We need to contact Admiral Lee Wan immediately," Song Hai said. Admiral Lee Wan was commander of Earth's United Space Defense Force. He was a veteran of the Mars campaigns and the asteroid belt conflicts, a man who had spent his entire career preparing humanity for the possibility of hostile contact with alien life. But this was different. This was not first contact with an enemy. This was first contact with victims asking for rescue. The Admiral's office in Geneva was dark when the secure communication came through. Lee Wan was a compact man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years as a pilot. He listened to the report from Seoul without interruption, his face growing more serious with each detail. "How confident are we in the translation?" he asked when Kim Day finished his briefing. 97% accuracy, Kim Day replied. "The mathematical foundations are solid, and they included star charts that match our astronomical data perfectly. This is real, Admiral." Lee Wan was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the lights of the city below. Finally, he spoke. "Send the technical data to all department heads. I want full analysis within 6 hours. Dr. Song, I need you to examine their descriptions of enemy capabilities. If we're going to help these people, we need to know what we're fighting." "Admiral," Park Hyun said carefully, "are we really considering this? It could be a trap. We know nothing about these aliens except what they've told us. Lieutenant Commander, look at those star charts again. The destruction they describe is moving in a clear pattern toward the galactic core. If we do nothing, and if they're telling the truth, eventually that threat will reach us anyway. Better to fight it now with allies than face it alone later." Dr. Song Hai was already working, pulling up the technical specifications the aliens had included with their message. The Kethmore bioships were like nothing humanity had ever imagined. Living vessels that could adapt and heal, powered by consuming the matter around them. Traditional energy weapons seemed nearly useless against them. "These bioships," she said, pointing to the data, "they're designed to fight the kind of forces these peaceful aliens have. Energy shields, non-lethal weapons, ships built for exploration rather than war. But they've never faced anything like our weapons." "What do you mean?" asked Kim Day. "Look at their defensive descriptions. Their ships protect against energy weapons and electromagnetic pulses. But there's no mention of kinetic weapons, no preparation for explosive ordnance. They've never encountered enemies who use bullets, missiles, or nuclear weapons." Admiral Lee Wan smiled grimly. "Because civilized species don't fight with such crude weapons." "Exactly. We're not civilized by their standards. We're Deathworlders, who learn to fight with whatever we could find. Our weapons are brutal and primitive compared to their technology. That might be exactly what this galaxy needs." Within hours, the message from Seoul had reached every major government on Earth. The revelation that humanity was not alone sent shockwaves through society, but the military response was swift and decisive. If Earth was being asked to send Deathworlders to help save the galaxy, then Deathworlders they would send. The construction yards around Mars began emergency production of humanity's most advanced warships. The experimental vessel Indomitable was pulled from its test schedule and prepared for immediate deployment. Crew selections began for what would be humanity's first interstellar military mission. Major Choi Nam received his orders while training new recruits in the Australian desert. Lieutenant Kang Yoon was pulled from her assignment with the Asteroid Defense Force. Dr. Lim Sol, the xenobiologist, was given access to every piece of alien data Earth had collected over the years. They were assembling a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not diplomats or explorers, but warriors forged by the harshest world any of them could imagine. Humans who had learned that survival was not guaranteed and that sometimes violence was the only answer. The response message Earth sent back to the Galactic Council was simple and direct. Help was coming. The Deathworlders were on their way. Across the solar system, humanity prepared for war among the stars. They had no idea that the peaceful galaxy that had asked for their help was about to learn exactly what it meant to fight beside beings from a death world. The universe was about to change forever. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system, like hunters emerging from the forest. 12 warships in perfect formation, their dark hulls scarred from training exercises and built for one purpose: war. The aliens watching from their crystal observation stations had never seen anything like them. Admiral Lee Wan stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the alien homeworld grow larger on the main screen. The planet was beautiful in a way that Earth could never be. No storms raged across its surface. No dangerous animals stalked its forests. Even from space, it looked peaceful and safe. "Incoming transmission," reported Lieutenant Kang Yoon from her communication station. "They're requesting permission to approach and offering escort ships." "Tell them we accept," Lee Wan replied. "But make it clear our weapons stay active. This could still be a trap." The alien escort ships were works of art, smooth curves and flowing lines that looked more like sculptures than military vessels. They moved with grace through space, their hulls glowing with soft energy fields. Beside them, the human ships looked like armored beasts, all angles and weapon ports. Captain Kim Dae watched from the secondary bridge as they approached the main station. "Their ships are beautiful," he said to Dr. Song Hai, who was studying the alien technology through their sensors. "Beautiful but weak," she replied, pointing to her readings. "Look at those energy signatures. Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and cosmic radiation, but their hull strength is minimal. A single missile from our smallest ship could punch clean through their flagship." "Maybe that's why they're losing," Kim Dae observed. "The docking process took hours. The aliens had to modify their station just to accommodate ships built for war rather than diplomacy." When Admiral Lee Wan finally walked through the airlock onto Nexus Prime, he carried himself with the calm confidence of a predator entering unknown territory. High Chancellor Vexitara waited to greet him in the main reception chamber. Her crystalline body threw rainbows across the walls, and her voice carried musical tones that the translation system struggled to convert. But despite her beauty, Lee Wan could see the fear in her movements. "Admiral Lee Wan of Earth," she said formally, "we welcome you to Nexus Prime. We are grateful beyond words that you answered our call for help." "Chancellor," Lee Wan replied with a simple nod, "my people are here to assess the situation and determine if we can be of assistance. I make no promises beyond that." The directness of his response seemed to surprise the alien delegates. They were used to long ceremonial greetings and diplomatic pleasantries. This human got straight to business, with no wasted words. Counselor Zephian stepped forward, his metallic skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "Admiral, we have prepared detailed briefings on the Kethmore threat. Our military experts can explain their capabilities and the challenges we face." "I'd prefer to speak with survivors," Lee Wan said. "People who have actually fought these creatures and lived to tell about it." Another moment of surprise from the aliens. Their military experts were scholars and theorists. The idea of learning from common soldiers was foreign to them. But they arranged the meetings. Captain Kim Dae spent the next day interviewing refugees from the Outer Rim worlds. The stories they told painted a picture of an enemy unlike anything humanity had faced, but also revealed critical weaknesses that the peaceful aliens had missed. "They attack in swarms," explained Tolvin, a survivor from the mining world of Kepler Station. "Hundreds of bioships moving like a single organism. Our defenders tried to disable them with minimum casualties, but the Kethmore don't understand mercy. They consume everything." Dr. Song Hai examined fragments of Kethmore biotechnology that had been recovered from battle sites. The organic ships were incredible examples of biological engineering, but they had been designed to fight enemies who valued life above victory. Look at these adaptation patterns, she explained to Kim Dae as they studied the samples. The bioships learn from each encounter, developing resistance to whatever weapons are used against them. But the learning process is slow. It takes time for the adaptations to spread through their fleet. How much time? Kim Dae asked. Days, maybe weeks. If you could destroy them faster than they could adapt, you could break their entire system. The aliens can't do that because they don't want to kill, Kim Dae realized. They keep trying to disable or drive off the Kethmore instead of destroying them completely. Meanwhile, Major Choi Nam was conducting his own assessment of the Galactic military forces. What he found would have been laughable if the situation weren't so serious. The alien soldiers were brave, but they had never been trained to kill. Their weapons were designed to stun or disable. Their tactics focused on minimizing casualties on both sides. They fight like it's a sport, he reported to Admiral Lee Wan. Honor rules, no killing unless absolutely necessary, always try to capture, rather than destroy. They're trying to have a civilized war against an enemy that wants to eat them. The revelation hit the human command team like a thunderbolt. The peaceful galactic civilization wasn't losing because they were weak or cowardly. They were losing because they refused to become monsters to fight monsters. Lieutenant Kang Yoon was analyzing Kethmore attack patterns when she made another crucial discovery. Admiral, look at their expansion routes. They're not random. The Kethmore are following specific paths through space, avoiding certain systems entirely. Show me, Lee Wan ordered. The tactical display showed the Kethmore advance over the past year. They moved in predictable waves, consuming worlds along established trade routes while avoiding systems with harsh environments or dangerous phenomena. They're avoiding anything that looks difficult, Lee Wan realized. They want easy targets, defenseless worlds they can consume without risk. They've never had to fight for survival. Dr. Song Hai looked up from her biological samples. Admiral, I think these Kethmore may have evolved on a garden world themselves. Their bioships show no adaptations for harsh environments. They've probably never encountered real predators before. The pieces began falling into place. The Kethmore were successful because they had only fought peaceful civilizations. They were like sharks swimming among schools of fish. But sharks had never met humans before. They've never fought Deathworlders, Admiral Lee Wan said quietly. That evening, the human command team met with the Galactic Council to present their findings. The aliens listened in growing horror as the humans outlined their assessment. You're suggesting we become like them, Chancellor Vexistara said, her light dimming with distress. You want us to abandon everything that makes us civilized? No, Lee Wan replied. We're suggesting you let us be what we already are. You called us Deathworlders because that's what we are. Let us fight this war the way Deathworlders fight. But the casualties, protested Counselor Zephian. The destruction will be less than what happens if the Kethmore keep winning, Captain Kim Dae said firmly. Sometimes the only way to save lives is to take lives. Sometimes civilization survives by letting uncivilized people do uncivilized things. The council chamber fell silent. These aliens had built their entire society on the principle that violence was never the answer. Now they were being told that violence might be the only answer. What do you propose? The Chancellor asked finally. Admiral Lee Wan stood up, his presence filling the chamber with quiet authority. Give us operational command of the war effort. Let us coordinate the defense while your people focus on evacuations and support. We'll show the Kethmore what happens when predators meet apex predators. The vote was closer than the previous one, but desperation won again. The peaceful galaxy was about to learn what war looked like when Deathworlders fought it. The alarm klaxons at Kepler Station screamed through the corridors as Kethmore bioships emerged from hyperspace like a plague of locusts. Station Commander Veltik watched in terror as hundreds of organic vessels swarmed toward his mining facility, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at. All civilian ships evacuate immediately, he broadcast across all frequencies. Defense Fleet, prepare for retreat pattern 7. The Galactic defense ships moved into their standard formation, elegant vessels designed for precision strikes and minimal damage. They had done this dance before at dozens of other worlds. Fight briefly, evacuate who they could, and fall back before the Kethmore could overwhelm them. But this time was different. Commander Park Hyun listened to the alien evacuation orders from the bridge of his destroyer and shook his head. Negative, Kepler Station. Human fleet is moving to intercept. All civilian vessels clear the combat zone. Human fleet? Station Commander Veltik's voice cracked with surprise. But you cannot fight them all. There are too many. Watch and learn, Park Hyun replied, switching to the human battle frequency. All ships, this is Hammer 1, weapons free. Show these bioships what Earth firepower looks like. The human warships accelerated directly toward the Kethmore swarm. No elegant formations or careful positioning. They moved like wolves charging into a herd of deer, their weapons already spinning up to firing temperature. The first exchange shocked everyone watching. The Kethmore bioships launched streams of acid and bioplasma, attacks that had melted through the shields of galactic vessels like paper. But the human ships didn't rely on energy shields. Their hulls were layers of composite armor designed to survive nuclear explosions and asteroid impacts. The bioweapons splashed harmlessly against armor that had been forged in the fires of Earth's most destructive wars. Then the humans returned. Fire. Kinetic railguns hurled depleted uranium slugs at enormous velocity. Nuclear-tipped missiles tracked their targets with perfect precision. Laser arrays designed to cut through asteroids sliced into bioship hulls like scalpels through flesh. The Kethmore had never experienced anything like it. Their bioships, evolved to adapt to energy weapons, had no defense against solid projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. The railgun slugs punched clean through their hulls, creating massive trauma that their healing systems couldn't repair fast enough. Impossible, breathed Station Commander Veltik as he watched human weapons tear through Kethmore forces that had seemed invincible just moments before. But Commander Park Hyun was just getting started. All fighters launch. Boarding teams prepare for EVA operations. The alien observers watched in amazement as human fighter craft launched from the warships. But these weren't the sleek interceptors they expected. These were ugly, brutal machines, built around massive engines and weapon systems. They moved through space like angry hornets, dodging between bioships and launching missile salvos at point-blank range. Then came something that no galactic military had ever attempted: human boarding actions. Major Choi Nam led the first assault team as they launched from torpedo tubes like living missiles. Their powered armor was crude by galactic standards, but it was designed for the most hostile environment imaginable. Combat on a death world. The bioship hulls that could resist energy weapons offered little protection against diamond-edged, cutting tools and explosive charges. Breach successful, Choi Nam reported as his team cut through the bioship's outer layers. Moving to internal systems. Inside the Kethmore vessels, the humans found a maze of organic corridors pulsing with alien life. The bioship was trying to seal the breaches and flood the damaged sections with digestive acids. Against most species, this would have been effective, but humans had evolved wearing protective gear in toxic environments. They had learned to fight in conditions that would kill other species instantly. The bioship's defenses were useless against enemies who could operate in pure vacuum or survive in acid rain. The boarding team moved through the vessel like antibodies attacking an infection. They planted explosive charges on critical bioorgans and severed neural pathways with surgical precision. Within minutes, the entire bioship was convulsing in its death throes. Target eliminated, Choi Nam reported. Moving to secondary objective. Dr. Lim Sol watched the battle from the science vessel Curiosity, studying how the Kethmore reacted to human tactics. What she saw confirmed her worst fears about the enemy and her best hopes about humanity's chances. They're panicking, she reported, to the fleet command. The Kethmore bioships are trying to adapt to our weapons, but they can't process the input fast enough. They've never encountered kinetic weapons before. What about their learning systems? Asked Captain Kim Day over the communication link. Overloaded. They're getting too much new data too fast. Instead of adapting, they're just dying. The biological systems can't keep up with mechanical weapons. The battle that should have been a massacre turned into a rout. The Kethmore swarm, which had destroyed dozens of galactic defense fleets, broke apart under human assault. Bioships that had seemed immortal burned and died as human weapons tore them apart faster than they could heal. But the most shocking moment came when the Kethmore began to retreat. For the first time in the recorded history of their species, the Kethmore turned and fled from a battle. The bioships that had survived the initial assault tried to escape to hyperspace, abandoning their attack on Kepler Station. Commander Park Hyun was not about to let them go. All ships, pursue and destroy. No survivors, Commander. Station. Commander Veltic protested. They are retreating. By galactic law, we must allow them to withdraw. This isn't a galactic law engagement, Park Hyun replied coldly. This is pest control. The human fleet followed the fleeing Kethmore into hyperspace, hunting them like the predators they were. The bioships that had terrorized the galaxy for months found themselves being stalked by enemies who showed no mercy and took no prisoners. Dr. Song Hae analyzed the bioship wreckage that the boarding teams had captured. What she found changed everything humanity thought about their new enemy. Admiral, she reported to Lee Wan, these Kethmore aren't natural predators. They're parasites. Their entire society is built around consuming other civilizations because they never learned to create anything themselves. Explain, Lee Wan ordered. Look at their bioship construction. It's all adapted from other species' technology. They don't innovate. They just consume and copy. They've been winning because they've only fought civilizations that were too peaceful to really hurt them. And now they've met us, Lee Wan said grimly. Now they've met a species that knows how to kill efficiently. Admiral, I think we just broke their entire military doctrine. They've never had to deal with losses like this before. The victory at Kepler Station sent shockwaves through both the galaxy and the Kethmore horde. The aliens watched in amazement as human forces did what their combined fleets couldn't: stop a Kethmore attack cold and drive them off with massive casualties. But the Kethmore were learning too. Deep in their hive ships, the surviving commanders analyzed the new threat. These Deathworlders fought unlike anything they had encountered. They showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and used weapons that their bioships couldn't adapt to quickly enough. For the first time in their species' history, the Kethmore experienced something they had never known before: fear. Major Choi Nam studied the tactical reports from his boarding actions and smiled grimly. They're not unstoppable monsters, he told his assault teams. They're bullies who've never been punched back. Time to show them what real predators look like. The word spread quickly through both human and alien command structures. The Kethmore could be beaten. The Deathworlders had found their weakness and exploited it with ruthless efficiency. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the only way to stop a monster was to unleash a bigger monster. And Earth had been creating bigger monsters for millions of years. Admiral Lee Wan stood before the assembled Galactic Council, his uniform crisp and his expression deadly serious. Behind him, holographic displays showed star maps marked with red zones indicating Kethmore-held territory. The alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats, still processing the shocking human victory at Kepler Station. Honored Council, Lee Wan began, we have proven that the Kethmore can be defeated, but defensive victories will not win this war. We must take the fight to them before they adapt to our tactics. High Chancellor Vextera's crystalline form flickered with concern. Admiral, what are you proposing? Operation Deathworld, Lee Wan replied, activating the star map. We strike directly at the Kethmore breeding worlds, cut off their source of bioships and force them to fight on our terms. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Councillor Zephian rose from his seat, his metallic skin showing patterns of distress. You cannot be serious. Those worlds are deep in Kethmore territory. It would be suicide. For your ships, yes, Captain Kim Dae said, stepping forward. Your vessels are built for peaceful space, trade routes, and civilized environments. But humans have been preparing for hostile territory Our entire evolutionary history, Dr. Song. HFY activated another display, showing detailed scans of the Kethmore breeding worlds. These planets are incredibly hostile by galactic standards. High gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures. The Kethmore chose them because they knew no civilized species would ever attack there. They never met Deathworlders, added. Lieutenant Kang Yoon. Ambassador Krilten from Aquatica spoke up, her blue-green skin rippling with worry patterns. Even if you could reach these worlds, how would you destroy bioship production facilities? Our intelligence suggests they are integrated into the planetary ecosystems themselves. We don't destroy the facilities, Major Choi Nam said with a cold smile. We destroy the planets. The silence that followed was complete. The alien delegates stared at the humans in horror. The concept of destroying entire worlds was beyond their comprehension. It violated every principle of civilized warfare. You would commit genocide, whispered Chancellor Vexitara. We would commit surgery, Admiral Lee Wan corrected. The Kethmore breeding worlds are not inhabited by innocent civilians. They are military production facilities that happen to be alive. Dr. Lim Sol, explain what we've learned. Dr. Lim Sol activated her biological analysis displays. The Kethmore breeding worlds are not natural ecosystems. They are massive biomechanical factories designed to produce warships. Every organism on these planets exists only to support military production. Destroying them is no different from bombing a weapons manufacturing plant. Except these plants are the size of planets, Counselor Zephian observed. Which is why we brought planet-killing weapons, Dr. Song Hai said matter-of-factly. The alien delegates recoiled in horror. The humans spoke of world-destroying weapons as casually as discussing the weather. It reinforced every fear they had about inviting Deathworlders into their galaxy. But Admiral Lee Wan saw their fear and addressed it directly. Council members, we understand your concerns, but consider the alternative. The Kethmore have consumed 12 worlds in the past month. Alone, billions of innocent beings have died while we fought a defensive war. How many more will die if we continue to react instead of act? The mathematical reality was undeniable. The Kethmore were winning through sheer attrition. Each world they consumed made them stronger while weakening the galactic defense forces. Defensive victories like Kepler Station bought time, but they didn't solve the core problem. If we approve this operation, Chancellor Vextara asked slowly, what guarantee do we have that you won't turn these weapons on us next? None, Lee Wan replied honestly. You'll have to trust us, just like we're trusting you by coming here with only 12 ships instead of our entire fleet. The vote took hours of heated debate. Many council members argued that destroying worlds, even enemy worlds, was morally indefensible. Others pointed out that the Kethmore had shown no such restraint in their expansion. Finally, desperation won again. The operation was approved by the narrowest possible margin. Within days, a combined human-alien task force assembled at the edge of Kethmore space. The human ships remained dark and angular, built for war. The alien vessels provided support systems, advanced shields, and sensor arrays that human technology couldn't match. Commander Park Hyun led the advanced scout force through hyperspace, routes that skirted the edge of known danger zones. The Kethmore had never bothered to patrol these regions because no civilized species would risk traveling through areas with unstable stars, gravitational anomalies, and radiation storms. Humans are insane, muttered Navigator Yuldish from the alien support ship Harmony as they dropped out of hyperspace near a binary pulsar system. No sane species would fly this close to a neutron star. That's why it works, replied Lieutenant Kang Yoon from her position on the human command ship. The Kethmore think like civilized beings. They never expect anyone to take the dangerous route. The first breeding world appeared on their sensors like a nightmare made real. The planet pulsed with bioluminescent activity, its surface covered in massive organic structures that reached into orbit. Bioships in various stages of development hung like fruit from enormous space elevators made of living tissue. Target confirmed, reported Major Choi Nam from his assault ship. Beginning. Deep penetration scan. Dr. Songhai studied the sensor readings with fascination and disgust. The entire planet is one massive organism. The surface structures are just reproductive organs. The real bioship construction happens deep in the planetary core. Conventional. Weapons won't work, Dr. Limsol observed. We need something that can destroy the entire planetary ecosystem at once. We have something, Admiral Lee Wan said quietly. Captain Kim, activate the stellar torpedo. The weapon that emerged from the human flagship's cargo bay looked deceptively small, no bigger than a standard missile. It drifted silently toward the breeding world while Kethmore bioships swarmed to intercept it. The bioship's weapons had no effect on the torpedo's shielding. It passed through their defensive fire like it wasn't there, following a trajectory that would take it deep into the planet's core. What does it do? Asked Ambassador Krilten over the communication channel. It turns the planet's core into a miniature star, Dr. Songhai explained. The fusion reaction will consume the entire planetary mass within hours. The alien delegates watched in horrified fascination as the torpedo disappeared into the breeding world's surface. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then the planet began to glow from within. Detonation successful, reported the human weapons officer. Planetary core temperature rising. Estimate complete consumption in 4 hours. The Kethmore bioships orbiting the planet seemed to sense what was happening. They swarmed toward the human fleet in desperate fury, but it was too late. Their breeding world was already dying. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump, Admiral Lee Wan ordered. Next target is 7 light-years rimward. As the combined fleet jumped to hyperspace, they left behind a star where a planet had been just hours before. The first Kethmore breeding world was gone, and with it the capacity to produce thousands of bioships. But the psychological impact was even greater than the military one. Across Kethmore space, the hive minds that controlled their fleets received the impossible news. An entire breeding world had been destroyed. Not conquered or damaged, but completely obliterated. For the first time in their species' history, the Kethmore felt something beyond hunger or aggression. They felt terror. Deep in the galactic core, the Kethmore queens gathered in their great hive ship to discuss this new threat. The Deathworlders had done the impossible. They had attacked where no attack was expected, using weapons that turned planets into stars. These humans are not like the others, Queen Morgash observed, her massive biomechanical form pulsing with agitation. They do not seek to capture or convert. They seek only to destroy. They fight like the old destroyers from the ancient wars, agreed Queen Vexkol, before we learned that consumption was more efficient than annihilation. Perhaps, Queen Morgash replied, it is time to remember those old ways ourselves. The war was about to enter a new phase. The Kethmore had learned that they faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before, an enemy that would destroy entire worlds to stop them. But humans were about to learn that cornered predators were the most dangerous kind. The Void Nebula had been considered impassable by galactic standards for thousands of years. Massive gas clouds filled with radiation storms and gravitational anomalies made it deadly to most starships. But for the Kethmore queens, it was the perfect place to make their final stand. Admiral Lee Wan studied the tactical displays on the bridge of the Indomitable as the combined human-alien fleet approached the nebula's edge. Intelligence reports indicated that the surviving Kethmore forces had gathered around their primary hive ship, deep within the cloud. It was a fortress the size of a moon, protected by the most hostile space environment in the local galaxy. Sensors are having trouble penetrating the nebula, reported Lieutenant Kang Yoon. The radiation is interfering with our scanning systems. Good, Lee Wan replied. If we can't see them clearly, they can't see us either. This levels the playing field. Captain Kim Dae approached the Admiral with the latest intelligence reports. Our xenobiologist teams have analyzed the hive ship structure from long-range scans. Dr. Limsol believes the queens themselves are located in the central core, directly controlling the remaining bioship production. How many bioships are "We facing?" asked Major Choi Nam. "Estimates suggest 1,500 combat-ready vessels plus the hive ship's own defensive systems. It's everything they have left." The human fleet had grown since the Breeding World campaigns. Word of their victories had spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring previously neutral systems to join the fight. But they still faced overwhelming odds in terms of pure numbers. "Admiral," came a transmission from the alien flagship Harmony. "Our sensor arrays are detecting massive bioenergy readings from within the nebula. The Kethmore appear to be preparing something." Dr. Songhai looked up from her analysis station. "Admiral, I'm reading quantum fluctuations consistent with large-scale biomechanical construction. They're building something new in there." "Time to deployment?" Li Wan asked. "Unknown. But given the energy patterns, I'd estimate they need at least 12 more hours to complete whatever they're working on." Li Wan nodded grimly. "Then we go in now before they finish. All ships, prepare for nebula entry. Combat formation Delta." The combined fleet moved into the swirling gas clouds, like hunters entering a haunted forest. Visibility dropped to nearly zero as radiation storms battered their shields. The alien ships designed for clear space operations struggled with the hostile environment, but the human vessels seemed almost comfortable in the chaos. They had been built to operate in the asteroid belts and solar storms of Earth's system. The nebula's dangers were just another day at the office for Deathworlders. "Contact," announced Lieutenant Kang Yoon. "Multiple bioship signatures converging on our position." The battle began with a fury unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The Kethmore threw everything they had at the human fleet, wave after wave of bioships attacking from all directions within the concealing gas clouds. But this time was different. The humans had learned from previous encounters, and the aliens had finally begun to adapt to human fighting styles. The graceful alien ships provided covering fire with their advanced energy weapons, while human vessels closed for brutal close-range combat. Commander Park Hyun led a squadron of destroyers in a daring run through the heart of the Kethmore formation. His ships moved like sharks through bloody water, their kinetic weapons tearing through bioship hulls, while alien energy beams kept the enemy defensive systems overloaded. "Breakthrough achieved," he reported. "We have a clear path to the hive ship." Kethmore's final creation became visible through the gas clouds like a nightmare emerging from fog. It was larger than any bioship they had seen before, a living fortress that pulsed with malevolent energy. Weapon ports covered its surface like infected sores, and its hull seemed to writhe with a life of its own. "My God," whispered Dr. Lim, Saul as she studied the massive structure. "It's not just a ship, it's a living ecosystem. The entire thing is one enormous organism." "Can our weapons hurt it?" asked Admiral Li Wan. "Conventional weapons will be absorbed and used to make it stronger. But if we can reach the core where the queens are located, a single stellar torpedo should destroy the entire structure. That means aborting action," Major Choi Nam realized. "Someone has to get inside that thing and plant the weapon manually." The assault team launched from the flagship in heavily armored shuttles, their hulls scarred from the journey through the nebula's radiation storms. Choi Nam led the team with grim determination, knowing that the fate of the galaxy might rest on their success. The hive ship's defenses were unlike anything they had encountered. Living walls tried to crush the invaders, while acidic atmosphere ate at their protective gear. Biomechanical guardians stalked them through organic corridors that pulsed like arteries. But humans had evolved fighting in hostile environments against dangerous predators. The hive ship's defenses, terrifying to civilized species, were just another Deathworld challenge to overcome. "Core chamber located," Choi Nam reported as his team cut through the final defensive barrier. Beginning weapon placement. Inside the core, the Kethmore queens waited, massive biomechanical beings that had ruled their horde for centuries. They had never faced enemies who could reach their inner sanctuary. The sight of armored humans placing explosive devices in their sacred chamber filled them with something they had never experienced: despair. "You destroy everything," Queen Morgash accused through translated bioelectrical signals. "Your species knows only violence and death. Your species knows only consumption and conquest," Choi Nam replied as he armed the stellar torpedo. "The difference is that we can choose to stop." The evacuation was a desperate race against time. The assault team fought their way back through collapsing biocorridors while the hive ship's immune systems tried to stop them. Behind them, the weapon counted down toward detonation. They reached their shuttle just as the stellar torpedo activated. The hive ship's core became a miniature sun, consuming the massive structure from within. The explosion lit up the entire nebula, visible from light years away. With their queens dead and their hive ship destroyed, the remaining Kethmore bioships simply stopped fighting. Without the central intelligence to guide them, they drifted through space like abandoned vessels. The war was over. The victory celebrations on Nexus Prime lasted for days. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to honor the heroes who had saved the galaxy from the Kethmore threat. But for the humans, the real work was just beginning. Admiral Li Wan accepted a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, representing Earth's interests in galactic affairs. The other council members had learned to respect human military expertise, even if they still feared human methods. "We offer you our gratitude and our friendship," Chancellor Vexitara said during the formal ceremony. "The galaxy owes its survival to the courage of Deathworlders." "The galaxy owes its survival to cooperation," Li Wan corrected. "Human weapons won the battles, but alien technology got us there. Your people's shields protected our ships. Your sensors found the targets. We won because we worked together." Captain Kim Day established the first human-alien military academy, teaching both species how to combine their strengths. Human tactical doctrine was integrated with alien technology, creating a new generation of defenders who could protect the galaxy from future threats. Dr. Song Hai led the effort to study captured Kethmore biotechnology, ensuring that their organic weapons could never again threaten civilized worlds. Her research teams included both human scientists and alien researchers, sharing knowledge across species barriers. Dr. Lim Sol founded the Galactic Xenobiology Institute, dedicated to understanding the countless life forms that populated the galaxy. Her work helped establish protocols for dealing with future hostile species before they could become galactic threats. But perhaps the most important change was in the alien species themselves. The gentle civilizations that had once relied entirely on peaceful solutions now understood that sometimes violence was necessary to protect innocence. They established rapid response forces trained in human tactical methods, ready to deal with threats before they could spread. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson from the Kethmore War. Peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of those willing to fight for it. Major Choi Nam trained the new Galactic Marine Forces, teaching alien soldiers how to fight like defenders rather than conquerors. His students learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the willingness to stand between evil and innocence. Lieutenant Kang Yoon established the early warning network that would alert the galaxy to future threats before they could gain momentum. Her communication systems linked every inhabited world, ensuring that no species would face extinction alone ever again. The Memorial Garden on Nexus Prime honored all those who had died in the Kethmore War, both alien and human, but it also celebrated something more important, the moment when the galaxy learned that diversity was strength, when peaceful species and Deathworlders discovered they could work together to protect what mattered most. Years later, when new threats emerged from the dark spaces between galaxies, they would find a very different reception than the Kethmore had encountered. They would face not just peaceful aliens or brutal humans,